Hello and welcome to Carl Lewis Academy. This is season 1, episode 1. In this season, we will focus on learning Ubuntu Linux. So we start by opening our web browser. I will open a new tab. I will just type download Ubuntu Linux. I will press enter. At the very top where you have download Ubuntu desktop, I will click that option. And it will take me to the page to download Ubuntu desktop. Once you are on the page to download Ubuntu desktop, scroll down and you will see Ubuntu version 22.04.2 LTS. So this is what we want to download. So we'll come on the right hand side where we have download in the green. So you just click on that to download Ubuntu. And then you give it a few seconds and the download will start. So if I click right here, I can see my download going on. I'm just going to cancel this download because I've already downloaded Ubuntu. Another thing to point out would be to just go back in your web browser and just take a look at the recommended system requirements. So when we install our virtualization software, when we set up a virtual machine within that software, we will have to set up our virtual machine to meet these minimum system requirements. So for hard drive size, we need at least 25 gigabyte of hard drive free space. For memory, we need 4 gigabyte of memory. For processor, we need at least a dual core processor that is 2 gigahertz in terms of the speed. And then we would need the additional optional and information that is required, like you need internet access. That is if you need to download some updates or additional software during the installation of Ubuntu, so you need internet access for that. And if you were installing it on a physical computer, you would need to either have a DVD drive or a USB drive. For us, we will be installing it in a virtual environment, so this doesn't really apply to us. But it's just good to be aware of the minimum system requirements as you proceed with installation of Ubuntu. The next thing we're going to do is to open a new tab, and then we're going to download VMware player. So at the top, we have download VMware Workstation Player. So you click that, and it brings you to the page to download. VMware Workstation Player works for both Windows and Linux. So I'm running Windows 11 on my computer, so I will download the Windows version of VMware Workstation Player. If you want to install it on a Linux and operating system, you'll download for Linux. If you're a Mac user, there is a version for Mac user, so you just say download VMware Workstation. It's called VMware Workstation. It's called Fusion Player. So that's the version that works for Mac. So you just click on download VMware Fusion. So you can click on Fusion Player right here. And then you can just you can set up an account and then download VMware Fusion Player. So that's the equivalent for Mac. For Windows is a Workstation Player. So once you have those two downloaded, then we can proceed to setting it up and installing Ubuntu. Now that we have VMware Workstation Player downloaded with Ubuntu image, I will open my File Explorer and just browse to where I have those downloaded to. So I have my VMware Workstation Player downloaded into a folder called Installer. And then I have my Ubuntu downloaded into a folder called ISO. I just try to separate those two. So I will go back to the folder called Installer, double click to install VMware Workstation Player. So you double click that. Workstation Player. So I'll click on yes. So this is a welcome wizard of the installation for VMware Workstation Player. Click next. Accept the license agreement. You can go through and read the license agreement and click on I accept the terms in the license agreement and click next. Another thing is telling you that it's going to add VMware Workstation console tools into system path. So that's the default. I'm going to keep that. And then asking me to install enhanced keyboard drivers. So I'm going to check that as well to install that. And it just tells you that it will occupy 10 megabytes of space on your hard drive. I'm okay with that. It's going to install it in the default location. I'll keep it to the default. I will click next. During the installation process, is going to use your internet connection to check if there are available updates. So I can just keep that and then ask you if you want to join the VMware Customer Experience Improvement Program. So if it is something that you want to do, you can check that. If not, you uncheck it. I would just keep it to the default and click next. Then the next screen is asking to create icon, a desktop shortcut icon. I don't like to have a lot of icons on my desktop just to keep my desktop tidy up. So I will uncheck that. And then it's going to put a shortcut within the start menu program. I'm okay with that. And I'll click next. And then at this stage, I click install. And then it begins the installation of VMware Workstation Player. So I'm going to pause the video and allow that to go through. And once that is done, we will come and set up our virtual computer. And then we will install Ubuntu Linux. After the installation of VMware Workstation Player, you have two options to either click on Finish or to enter a license. I do not have a license because I'm using it for non-commercial purpose. So if you are using it non-commercially, it is free to use. If you are using it commercially, then you have to enter a license. So we'll just click on Finish to finish the installation. I then prompted to restart the computer. I'm just going to, if you click yes, it's going to restart the computer right now. If you click no, it's going to allow you to restart the computer later. So I want to restart later, so I will just click on no. Now that I've clicked on no, I'm just going to pause the recording, restart my computer, and then we will continue with the configuration and setup of our virtual machine, as well as the installation of Ubuntu Linux. So I'll be back shortly. Now that I have my computer restarted, I will click in the search at the bottom left and type VMware. And then I will open VMware Workstation Player. Once I have the VMware Workstation Player window open, I will maximize that window. At this stage, I have a few options to set up the virtual machine. So now I'm being prompted to update the VMware Workstation Player. I'm just going to say remind me later. I'm going to update it later. Back to what I was saying. So in the middle of the screen, I have the option to create a new virtual machine. So I can click that to create a new virtual machine, or I could come up to the top left-hand corner where I have player and click the drop-down arrow and come to File, to New Virtual Machine. Or I could use the shortcut Control-N on Windows or Command-N on Mac. And discuss the various ways we could create a virtual machine. I'm just going to start by clicking on create a new virtual machine at the top. So I'll click on that. When a new virtual machine wizard opens, I have 3 options to install. The first option is to use an installer disk. The second option is to point the installation to an ISO image. We do have an ISO image, but this second option will install the operating system as you create the virtual machine. So I don't want to use that. I want to use the third option, which is to install the operating system later. So I'll keep that option active and click on Next. On the next screen, we are to select the guest operating system. The guest operating system is simply the operating system that is being installed within the virtual machine. And the operating system on the computer you are using, whether a laptop or desktop or Mac, that operating system is the host operating system. So for our guest operating system, we are installing Linux, so we'll just keep the guest operating system to Linux. And the version of Linux, we are installing Ubuntu 64-bit Linux. But in case you are installing a different version of Linux, you just click the down arrow and you can select whichever version of Linux that you are installing from the list. So we'll keep that to Ubuntu 64-bit and we click on Next. The next wizard is to put in the name for our virtual machine. I'm just going to name it KLA, which is called Louis Academy, Ubuntu 01 for our first virtual machine. And this is a location that is selected automatically for us, the default location where the virtual machine files will be saved on the computer. I will just keep it to the default and click on Next. At this stage, it's asking us to define the virtual hard drive. If you remember from the system requirement, it did say the minimum space is 25 gigabytes. So I'm just going to change the default to something like 50 gigabytes for my hard drive space. Below, it has 2 options to either have the hard drive save the hard drive and file save as a single file or multiple file. And it does explain what having multiple files means. It just means that it is easier to move your virtual machine to another computer. So I'm just going to keep it to a single file. I'm not really interested in moving it to another computer. So I click on Next. And then at this stage, it gives you a summary of all the options that we have defined for our virtual machine. And we can just click on Finish to finish that. So I will just click on Finish. Now I have my virtual machine set up and ready. So the next thing to do is to connect the ISO image to this virtual machine and go ahead with the installation of Ubuntu Linux. So to do that, I can come right here and click on Edit Virtual Machine Settings. So that's one way to go to the virtual machine settings. Another way is to come in the pane on the left and right click and then come to Settings. And that will open the virtual machine settings. So either way works. You can pick whichever one that is convenient for you. And then again, even though we define the various hardware doing the wizard for the creation of this virtual machine, we can always come to the settings of the virtual machine and alter these settings. So for any reason that you need to change the memory size, you can change it from 8 gig to whatever size you want to. And even for the processor, you can increase the processor to 2. By default, it is 2 processor. You could increase the number of processor in this list. And the hard drive space, you could increase or add hard drive, and you can add additional hardware to your virtual machine. For now, we'll just keep it to what it is that we set up. So my main focus here is to just come to where we have CD/DVD. So you click on that. And then the first option is the device status. So it means that whenever the virtual machine comes on, the CD-ROM the virtual CD-ROM, DVD-ROM will be active. So we want to keep it to connect our power on. So whenever the virtual machine comes on, it is connected. Now, if we have a physical DVD for Linux, we can just put in the DVD into the computer and install our virtual machine. For our case, we are not having a physical DVD, we have an ISO image. So we will choose use ISO image. The next thing is to browse to where we have the image saved on the computer. So we have it in this folder called ISO. So I'll click on that and click on the Ubuntu image and click on open. So what it does, it connects the image to the virtual machine and then you click on OK. So at this stage, you can click on right here, play virtual machine. Basically, that will start up the virtual machine. Or you could come at the top and click on the power on from here, or you could right click on it and click on power on. So any of these options will work for you. So I will just click on power on. And then I will just click on OK. So it's going to take a few seconds and it's going to power on the virtual machine and the installation of Ubuntu will begin. So there we have the installation screen for Ubuntu. So I'm just going to click within the windows to have my mouse within the virtual machine window. And then we have few options. We have the very first option is try or install Ubuntu. The second one is to use Ubuntu in safe mode. But for us, we want to install Ubuntu. So we'll pick the first option. And enter on try or install Ubuntu, which was the first option on the previous screen. It takes us to the screen. So the first thing I want to do right now is to just maximize this. So I just press this to maximize. So try Ubuntu simply means you can use Ubuntu without installing it on your virtual machine. Or the second option is to actually install it on. The left, we have the language that we want to do the installation. So I'm going to keep it to English. We're going to install Ubuntu. The next option is to select your keyboard layout. I'm using English US keyboard. I'll just keep it to English US. So you can choose whatever keyboard you are using based on your language and then click on continue. The next point asks us if we want to install additional software and perform doing the installation. So the first thing is what apps would you like to install to start with? So I'm just going to keep it to normal installation. And then the second option says if we want to install updates during the installation of Ubuntu. So we don't have to install it, so I will just uncheck that. And then the third option is to install third-party software. Again, we will uncheck. It is not checked, so we'll just leave that unchecked. Within Ubuntu, we can still update the Ubuntu operating system and install additional third-party. So because it's something that will be part of the exercises we will do, so I will uncheck these options so that when we go within Ubuntu, we learn how to update Ubuntu from within Ubuntu. So I'll just keep it to normal installation and click on continue. At this stage of the installation process, we are being asked to erase the disk and install Ubuntu. So this has to do with the virtual hard drive that we had defined during the creation of our virtual machine, which was 50 gigabytes. So the installation will erase that disk and then install Ubuntu. So we'll keep it to the first option, erase disk and install Ubuntu. And then we click install now. We are giving a summary of what is going to take place. So it's going to erase the hard drive and then create these various partitions. So we'll just click on continue. This next screen allows you to choose your time zone. I'm currently in the New York time zone, which is the Eastern Standard Time. So I'll keep it to New York and click on continue. So just double check this and make sure that your time zone is properly defined, and then click on continue. This next screen allows us to create a user account that we will use to log into Ubuntu. So I will just fill in this place, put in the user account, put in the computer name, and put a password, and then click on continue. After confirming my password, I can choose to log in automatically, or I can choose to be prompted to always enter my password to log in. And there is a third option to use Active Directory. So I will keep the second option, which is require my password to log in, and I will click on continue. After clicking on continue, the installation of Ubuntu will begin. So I will pause the video and allow it to go through the installation process of Ubuntu. And once that is done, I will resume the video. After the installation has completed, we are prompted to restart now. So I'll just click on restart now. From my experience, it wouldn't allow you to remove the installation medium simply because the virtual machine is power on. So I would just ignore that message and just press enter. After a successful reboot of Ubuntu, we are now given the option to click on the user that we created. So I'll click on that user, put in the password, and then press enter to log in. At the initial login to Ubuntu, I'm prompted to create an online account. I don't want to create an online account for now, so I will just click on skip in the top right-hand corner. This screen, we are prompted to subscribe or upgrade for Ubuntu Pro, the Pro version of Ubuntu. Right now, I'm not interested in upgrading to a Pro version, so I'll keep it on skip for now, and then click on next in the top right-hand corner. At this stage, I'm asked if I would like to send system information to Ubuntu for improvement. If you want to do that, you can keep it on yes, send system info. I don't want to do that, so I'll just click on no, and I'll click on next. At the privacy screen, you can enable location services. For now, I don't want to do that, so I'll just keep it at the default and click on next. At this screen, we are asked if we want to install additional software on Ubuntu. Right now, we don't want to do that, so we just click on done. And there we have Ubuntu. So we have successfully installed Ubuntu, and we have logged into Ubuntu. In order to shut down Ubuntu, at the top right-hand corner, there is the power button. We'll click on the power button, and then I will click on power off /log out. So when you click on that, it expands the menu. Click onto the last option to power off. So I'll click on power off, and then I will confirm power off. And my Ubuntu Linux was successfully shut down. All right, thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this installation. So we first started with downloading the Ubuntu ISO image. Then we downloaded the setup file for VMware Workstation Player. Then we begin the installation process by first installing VMware Workstation Player, setting up a virtual machine, and then we connected the virtual machine to our Ubuntu ISO image, and then we went ahead and went through the installation process for Ubuntu. So we now have Ubuntu fully functional on VMware Workstation Player. So thank you once again. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you want to support. Like this video if you like it. If you have any questions or if you have any feedback, make sure to leave those in the comment section below. We will do our best to answer to every comment that will be on the video. And if you got value from this YouTube video, make sure to turn on your notifications so that you are notified whenever we release future episodes. If there is anyone that you know that will benefit from this video, kindly make sure to share this video with them. That's how you support the channel.